Hi, I'm Tim Carter, AskTheBuilder.com. It's another day here at the job site. It's been 2 days since they poured the footings. They've already started to set wall panels. There's a lot to see. I think you're going to like it. And I get questions from time to time about my wardrobe, and my shirt that I'm wearing is a wonderful American flag, but it's made up out of different firearm types. So I hope you enjoy it. It's a really, really beautiful shirt. I really, really like it. Let's get started. The first thing you need to see is, here is the footing, and if you remember the other day, it was water in the trench, and what they've done is they took off the forms, and now they filled it up with rock to make it easier to work. That's the primary reason they put this rock in. I don't know if they have any drain tile in here because it's all covered up, but down at the end of the job down here, you can see there's a drain tile sticking out, but there needs to be a drain tile completely along here. And there's another potential mistake, and I was hoping to be able to see it before they had done this and covered the rock, but I was not able to get here yesterday. Underneath, or either underneath the footing or at the base of the footing here, like the way my finger's crossing, there should have been pieces of 4-inch pipe so that any water that could get trapped underneath the slab here would be able to, by gravity, flow this way into this gravel and then through the pipe and then get to this side of the footing, and then eventually it would flow down the hill towards my truck. All right, so we don't know whether or not they put in those pipes because I did not see the pipes in there before they poured the concrete, and now we have got this rock in the way. We can't tell if it was done. But if you are building on a lot like this, where the ground is higher than at the back of the house, and as you can see right here, the ground just keeps sloping and sloping and sloping and sloping and sloping and down towards here, you are going to get water trapped in here. It's going to happen. You need to have a way to get the water out of here, through here, and out. Now, they may put pieces of pipe on top of the footing, and we'll see that after they pour the foundation walls and they strip the forms. But for now, I would have put it inside the footing. It rained last night and yesterday afternoon, and remember earlier in the series I told you that this is solid bedrock. So here's some water, and this water is not going to go anywhere. This water it can't go anywhere. It's very hard for it to go down unless it finds some very, very tiny cracks, and it's just going to get worse because there's a really good chance that over time that water is going to come down this hill. It's actually going to go underneath the drain tile, and it could easily seep here underneath the footing, and then this entire area here and this entire area under this entire house could fill literally with water. It would be, they're going to put gravel in, but that entire space could be filled with water. Now you can see why it's so important, and you can see the water starting to seep across the footing here. Why you have to have these sleeves either on top of the footing or below the footing is better to get this water out here. That's why I like to put the sleeves and the connection underneath the footing, because I don't want any water here at all, or I want a minimum amount of water that's underneath the slab. So we don't know if they did it. Let's hope they did it for the sake of the homeowner, but that's simple as that. I don't know what else to say. It's just a shame, and it's part of the building process that a lot of people are not taught, and it's really, really a shame. You can see that they have got these tall forms up, and these are 10-foot high forms. They will pour the concrete inside of them about 9 foot 2 inches high. I always used to pour mine 9 foot 4. You can see that the wall steps down over here. In other words, it goes from here down a little lower, and that's going to be a taller wall across there. I'm going to show you some other things of what they had to do. Remember I told you earlier in a previous video how important it was to be able to get the top of the forms level. Because if you did that, you wouldn't have to shim. And you can see that they've used little pieces of rock to shim up these forms. And, well, I mean, it's acceptable, but you really get an idea of how out of level this footer is when you look across here. So you can see that big gap right in the center. You know, you really don't want to do that. You want these footers level, and it's not that hard. And if you look over here, you can really see how out of level it was. So look here, and you can see the rocks that they're trying to get the forms level. But that's just unacceptable, and it's not that hard to get the top of the footer level. These 2x4s are braces that they have nailed into the forms. There's a nail right here. And the purpose of these is to make sure that the forms don't blow over while you're putting them up. Because if it's a windy day, these would topple over with no trouble whatsoever. So you always have to brace your foundation forms, especially these tall ones. All right, let's take a look at some other things. They haven't set this panel yet, and it's a really interesting shot. I'm so glad they didn't do this, because you can see, you may wonder, when you pour the concrete in this void here, all right, so you can see looking up to the sky and down, so this is all going to get filled with concrete. The pressure pushing against the form this way and pushing out this way, it's tremendous. I mean, it's tremendous pressure. So what keeps the forms together? What ensures that there's not a belly in the forms? It's these wires, these tie wires here. So you can see what happens. They slip these through these holes in the forms, and then these things come over and lock into place. These clips come and lock into place because these ties, you can see them here, they got little notches in them. So that's what keeps, and depending on the thickness of the wall, like this would be for an 8-inch wall, this is for a 10-inch wall. So this is for an 8-inch wall, this is for a 10-inch. That's what makes sure that the forms are consistently the same width and that they don't blow out. So looking here, I don't know how easily you can see them, but you can see they're completely assembled here. Here are those tie wires. Here, I mean, I call them tie wires. Everybody calls them different things, but you can see them here. They're all very important. You have to have these things installed right. Have to have it done, but you can really clearly see them here. And you can also note, once they had pulled the forms off the footers and before they had set the panels, they went around and they chalked lines where the one side or the other of the panels have to be. So when they go to continue, this wall down here, this red panel here, they're going to push it a little bit more closer to that chalk line down there. I'm looking at the back side of the panels now, and you can see they also braced them on this side. Same reason, very important. The wind can blow either direction. But they also filled the entire back here with this big crushed stone. And of course the drain tile is under here, supposedly. I believe it is. But let's go look at the drain tile for what it's worth for right now. They did use the right type of pipe, in my opinion. I like this solid white pipe, 4-inch. And I know it's hard to see, but there are rows of holes down here. And this is where the water enters the pipe. So the water comes up into the gravel, flows into these holes, and then it flows down the pipe. But, as I said, there was supposed to be a drain tile here. I have no idea if it's in. If it's not in, it's going to cause these people big problems down in the future. Here's a little issue I want to show you with the footing that's going to cause the guys sitting in the panels a little bit of a problem. So they were a little sloppy here. This vertical wall of the upper footing does not meet perfectly in a crisp 90-degree angle with the lower footing. So right here is a big wedge of concrete, and they're going to have to chip some of that out so that they can get the panels to fit tight here against here so concrete doesn't leak out. But when you form the footers and pour the footers, it just takes an extra few minutes to prevent, problems like this. This piece of 6-inch pipe is a really interesting clue. I would think the only reason it is here, and it's a good idea, is that this is used as a sleeve material. In other words, at different spots along the walls, in here, for example, they would put a sleeve in. They would actually cut, in other words, if the foundation wall is 10 inches thick, they would cut a 10-inch piece of this pipe here, make nice square cuts. They would insert it into the forms, and when the concrete is poured in the forms, the concrete flows around the sleeve, and when they strip the forms off, there's already a pre-made hole in the side wall of the foundation. And as I said, maybe they're going to put a couple of these sleeves on top of the footer. We'll find that out once they pour the walls and they strip the forms. We're going to see where in the world these pieces of green pipe ended up. It's going to be very interesting. But that's the only reason this pipe would be laying here, is that it's going to be used, I hope, for sleeves. And I can tell you, if you don't put it in, it's a nightmare and a much extra expense, much more costly expense to have to drill a giant hole inside or through the concrete foundation, instead of just putting a sleeve in. Let's talk a little bit about reinforcing steel. I think there's already a big problem on this job, and it could be a huge nightmare. Here is a piece of half-inch steel rebar, and if we look down in the forms here, it runs all the way down. But the trouble is, it's up about 4 feet off of the footing, and the best place for reinforcing steel is down low. I would have put it here on top of this row of ties. And you would put 2 pieces. You'd put a piece about here so that there's about 2 inches of space between the outer side of the wall and the rebar, and another piece here. And you would have these 2 pieces of steel run continuous all the way around the foundation. And you would do the same thing up here. So on this row of ties right here, we would also have a piece of steel right here, and we'd have a piece of here that would run the entire way around the foundation. Now, what does that steel do? The reason, and why is it put low and why is it put high? All right, it's really pretty simple. If the foundation, if the footing were to drop, all right, if it was to drop down, then the weight of the wall would want to go this way, and basically the bottom of the wall would want to stretch. It would be under tension and want to do that. And the steel prevents that big crack from happening. The same thing's true at the top. Let's imagine one corner of the footing were to drop, like if you were next to a hill. Same thing. So if one footing of the corner were to drop, let's go over here and look at it. It'd be much easier to show you. Let's say that this was the corner of the house, and this part of the foundation wanted to drop, all right? But this part of the foundation over here was still solid. So if this part wanted to drop, and this part was still solid, what would happen up here? You would get a crack, and a crack would open up like this at the top. And so you would have a crack that would start here, go all the way down to the footing, and the crack would be bigger at the top, all right? So it would be just like my fingers. So the reinforcing steel holds those two together. It's basically like a giant through bolt. That's why the steel has got to be at the top and at the bottom, because that's where the cracks will be the widest. Simple as that. My guess is they're going to finish setting the panels today. It is Friday, July 29th, 2022, and if they have enough people here, they'll set all these panels. And they'll probably pour early next week. There's not much more that I think I can show you. We were really lucky to get here before they had all the panels set, so that you can see all the things, like all those ties that are in between the panels, that once both sides of the panels are up, it's really hard to see that. And it's really hard to kind of explain it. And understand, with different panel systems, there are different types of ties. Some of the ties, instead of being small and round like that, they're a flatter bar. There's all different ways to do it, all different types of different situations. But just understand, you have to make sure, if you're going to do your foundation yourself, that that you have to make sure that there's no way possible for those forms to blow out. I've seen it happen, and it's horrible what happens. It's absolutely horrible. I want to remind you as well that if you have any questions about how to install a poured or cast concrete foundation, if there's any way that I can help you, if you want to prevent mistakes like you saw, I think might have happened with the drain tile and the sleeves, I can call you on the phone. Really, really simple. One simple phone call could save you thousands and thousands of dollars. And here's the best part. If after we do the phone call, you didn't get any value out of it, guess what? You get the call for free. So you've got nothing to lose. So just simply look at the link in the description of this video and go ahead and order a phone call. And if you don't want to take notes, guess what? I even offer transcribed or recorded phone calls. Yeah, in other words, you can just sit there and listen, and once the phone call's over, I send you a transcription of it so you can print it out and read exactly what I said. I don't think there's anybody else out there on the internet that's doing that, especially in the home improvement space. All right, we're going to have a lot more videos coming up in this series. I think you're really, really going to like it. I hope to be here recording a little bit of video the day that they're pouring the I'm going to do my best to do that because I think you would like to see that. I'm Tim Carter, AskTheBuilder.com.
If you want to discover more home improvement tips, go to AskTheBuilder.com.